Welcome to the Classroom Brew podcast. The teacher podcast is a little bit like drunk history. But wait, do you guys actually drink while you record episodes? Yeah. Actually. Yeah. Welcome back to Classroom Brew. This is episode 90, which is wild that we're already at 90 at this point. And I guess that my little notes for today are pretty indicative of the point that we're at in the school year, and that's things are falling apart. Yeah, it's a weird time of the year. But before we get into that, make sure whatever app you are in, rate and review. That really helps out the show. Really appreciate you guys when you reach out on social media and via email. That's really cool to hear from you guys. I'm glad you guys are liking the show. It's fun to put it out there for you. It's even more fun when we hear from people and you guys are saying things like, keep it up, or can you talk about this? That's all very helpful and very appreciated. So thank you guys for that. If you would like exclusive content, you can check out Patreon. We haven't really had a whole lot of exclusive content yet. Some of you guys asked a few things about a more inside look, stuff that's kind of tricky with, what's the word? Confidentiality. But that's still on Patreon. There's an option. We can try to figure out something there. So patreon.com/classroombrew. So for this week, I've got a twisted tea and I've got a little summer shandy. Well, it's a lemon shandy, but cheers. Anyway, so my biggest annoyance, I've had a few people that seem to think that because my room is well managed or well behaved or doing the task, they seem to think that it's easy, that I have an easier classroom than they do, which is my number one frustration because, well, first off, obviously wrong, but it's the same people that also seem to be a little bit, I don't want to say lazy, but they haven't exactly put forth the effort to set up the behaviors and routines and rituals that they would like to see. And I'm sure that's very common. I'm sure people all the time are frustrated by things that students are doing. And I'm sure I was in my first year. I can't really remember at this point. And it wasn't even that long ago. But I spent the entire first week and a half just setting things up for the rest of the year. And then I would constantly go back to it. So it's something that I put a lot of emphasis and effort into. And it was really hard and really frustrating. The first couple weeks, I was extremely exhausted. And it's not easy on a day-to-day basis. So when I see people, they're like, oh, man, you must have it so easy in here. It's like, hey, man, I did all the grunt work to get it here. Also, if you really know teaching, you're really just about one false move, or not even a move at all. It's really not dependent on you as the adult in the room. But shit could just go off the rails at any point over nothing. Like, Janica was hanging with my friends, and we already have too many friends, and you can't hang out with them. And will you call her your sister? I don't even know what's going on at this point. And they're the moments where, and I think a lot of people talk about this, where things fly a little bit more at the end of the year when everyone's energy is a little bit low. And it got me thinking because, it is the end of the year. We have the student series coming up. And I don't have a really big wrap-up. Well, I didn't have a big wrap-up in mind for the end of the school year. And then I went on my last field trip for my experiential learning class. Let me just, real quick before this story. Okay. Now, let me preface this by saying that episode 88, that was genuine when I said, thank a bus driver. But I'm also saying that I seem to jinx myself when I talk on this podcast about stuff. Talking with Justin about not being hit when breaking up fights. The very next day after that recording, punched in the face. Field trips have gone very well, and I was thinking a bus driver and funny stories of how bus drivers handle behavior, things like that. The very next day after that recording, And shortly after the episode aired, we go on a trip. Now, the way to the trip, okay, a few hiccups here or there. He missed a turn or two, our bus driver, but that's okay. We still made it there in a decent amount of time. The way back, however, so it's a field trip. It was to Bulls White Sox Academy, and so kids were running around doing a whole bunch of stuff. And when it's time to leave, we're thinking, oh boy, we got about an hour of traffic, because Chicago, as you may know, is the only place, well, maybe not the only place, but one of the few places that it takes an hour to get to it when you're already in it. So we were not even in Chicago, so we had even further to go than that. And what was disconcerting was that the bus driver seemed just as lost and confused. And we get to a certain point where I'm talking to some colleagues of mine on the bus. There's a few of us that were chaperoning, 2 of us were teachers, and we went from there. And suddenly we hear like this loud bang, and we're like, God, what was that? Like towards like the back of the bus. And we weren't like, was this a backfire? Did we get hit? What was this sound? It almost sounded like a pop or something like that. And I mean, luckily it wasn't like gunfire or something like that. We talked about episode 89 and even 88 got a little bit closer to talking about that kind of stuff. But luckily it was not that. But the problem is the kids didn't know that. And so we're reassuring them, things like that. And then suddenly the ride gets a little rickety. Like, oh, God. And the bus driver goes, what was that? Shouldn't you know? Hey, man. So we don't know what that is. It gets a little ricky. He goes, well, what do we do? Shouldn't you know? Pull over, man. Just pull over. Okay? Then we get out. He pulls over. This is on the highway. Forgot to mention that. No clue what's going on here. So he pulls over. And then my buddy Michael and I, we get out. You know, the 2 supervising teachers on this trip. And, he looks under. He thinks it's something mechanical. And I notice right away, we got a flat. It was a blowout. And the bus driver, yet again, looks at us and goes, well, what do we do now? Do I have to say it? Hey, man, shouldn't you know? Oh. So I recommend, hey, maybe you should radio or call your base. And then, so he does that, fast forward. And apparently they're going to send a bus. I'm like, great, we're not getting home forever. And then we're kind of sitting there keeping the kids calm, things like that, joking around. This last field trip really went out with a bang, or a pop, you could say. And then the bus driver, he apparently like stepped out of the bus for a little bit, came back on, and he goes, oh, we're good, actually. We're good. We can ride on it. Now, in hindsight, okay, there's 2 tires on either side in the back. This was the outside tire, so okay, that makes sense. A little rickety, but it's fine. But the fact that they were going to send a bus initially and then changed their minds and said, no, we're good. I'm not kidding when I say I was in the seat right behind the bus driver. That's how I could hear that he was saying, what was that and what do we do now? And I was watching that side view mirror like a hawk, thinking, don't shred, don't shred, don't shred, tire, don't shred. So very indicative. That gave me my inspiration for this episode. End of the year, the wheels on the bus are falling off. Falling off and falling off. Round and round, falling off. So that is what we're talking about this week. Now, which, by the way, permission slips for that trip for some reason, even though I've done them all year and given them 2 to 3 weeks to do them and all that, and they never get them in until like the morning before the trip, or the morning of the trip, I should say, or the very last minute. It never fails. It never fails. And you assume it's easy, people. And, well, anyways, it's the end of the year, and I've still gotten, even though I think I've been very clear about my expectations, I think I have a much more rigorous course than a lot of students are used to at the school that I teach at. And I still get kids that are, at this point, coming in, they go, oh my God, like, we always have work in here. What did you think we were going to do today? It's like the kid without the pencil Like, not to pencil shame or whatever they call it on social media, but come on. Are we getting that soft that we can't be like, hey, man, bring a pencil to school. It's the one thing you need. It's the one thing in my syllabus. Do you still have your syllabus? Probably not. The one thing in my syllabus that I need you to have and want you to have. That's it. Nothing. No binder. Nothing fancy. Just a pencil. And so yeah, he said that, and in my head I was like, okay, say none of that. But then I wound it back, and I just went, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks a whole lot. That means I've got expectations for you. And for me, I take that as a compliment. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that you recognize that there is work. Did you pick up the work on the front table, like our routine from day one? No, you didn't? Okay, please get that for me. Never fails. I've also had a few things that are going missing. I joked about things going missing when a sub isn't there, with the whole, like, what if I had to account for, like, a weapon if they arm teachers, which is ludicrous. But I have these sofa chairs, as you may know if you've seen photos from my classroom on social media or whatever. And, you have to have a surface. It's not like they're just sofa chairs that were in an old teacher's lounge. And they match, and there's 4 of them. Cool. So I got clipboards for them. Simple solution. They've got something that can act as a hard surface for them to write on. Perfect. Those damn things go missing all the time. Just like my hall pass. My hall pass last year was fine. Never went missing. But this year, for some reason, constantly missing. It's at the point where I'm like, all right, forget it. I'm not even going to try. So I have some alternate. But the clipboards, disconcerting, because they say my name, my classroom number, and please return these if you find them on it. And somehow 2 of them have gone missing. I replaced the one. 2 additional ones had to be replaced because they were snapped. And at this point, I'm like, all right, the fucking clipboards are out. It's done. And for those of them that maybe someone's got it somewhere and like, oh, I got you, Mr. F. What do you need it for? You got a meeting to run? You got people to supervise? I know there's like about 20 some odd kids throughout the day that actually sit in those chairs consistently. And I can tell you, less than half, I shouldn't say that, about 50-50 are actually more productive when they, or less productive rather, when they sit in those chairs, which I knew was kind of going to happen, but at least they're comfortable, right? And it's getting better. It's been a kind of a ebb and flow type of thing, ups and downs with that. But yeah, where are my clipboards? I always joke, like, it's not that we can't have nice things. We just can't have things, man. They go missing, even a clipboard. And I don't think it's not like it's malicious in intent. Now, I take it if you write on my walls, like Mr. F sucks or some shit. I don't know. I've never had that, luckily. I take that as malicious because it's like, come on. Like, I get it if you have like a touching problem, like you don't have an impulse control. And so you're touching and moving things, like, okay, big deal. High schoolers, teenagers, it's going to happen. The room's not going to be perfect the way I normally have it when I start and finish a day. But drawing on the wall, or whatever it may be, or pulling down like the bulletin board, like border. Just let us have nice things. Okay, even the hallways were recently painted over the summer. And kids are constantly, like, I'm sure they're just like, as they're walking, taking a pencil to it or like pulling off chips. Like, we can't even have walls. Just be nice to it. Wheels on the bus are falling off. Don't let the walls fall off the school. Just have the nice stuff. That's it. So, yeah, things are going missing. That's been kind of odd. I've been very strict about phones because I haven't seen the students that I have this year use phones in a productive, education-provoking or education supplemental to their education. It hasn't been good. We've talked about phones quite a bit over the past 2 years on the podcast and in my building as well. But I've noticed that my students are becoming very bad spies, like really bad. At one point, I went up to a kid the other day and I was like, hey, get off your phone. He's like, well, how'd you know? And I was like, you don't normally smile in your lap for 44 minutes. It's kind of obvious. It's kind of obvious, man. Like, if this was the Cold War, you'd be caught quickly, very quickly. And so these little behaviors and things like that where you kind of have to go back over expectations. And again, I was just like, wheels on the bus, they're falling off. What's going on right now? This is really weird. And which Oh, and I wrote this down. This kind of related. I talk a little bit about gym qualms that I have. Qualms. And one of them was this guy at the gym. And I'm sure I complained to Joe and Brian about this. Maybe my other buddy Brian too. And I'm sure Katie for sure complained to her about this. But there's this guy, like a big guy. And like I pride myself at, I've been lifting for quite a while now. But this guy's huge. Like he knows a lot more shit than I do. And man, was I pissed off at this guy because he had a Beats pill, like a speaker. And that right there tells you enough. He had a speaker in a gym. Like I have headphones, like Apple earbuds, not AirPods. I'm not that bougie. But he had a Beats pill. Strike one. And then he was playing it. Oh, strike two, my friend. And strike three, it was playing really loud screamo. So let me get this straight. You're going to decide for everyone in this gym, an LA Fitness, a big LA Fitness, a 2-story LA Fitness, you're going to decide for all of us that we're going to listen to screamo while you psych yourself up for your 315-pound deadlift warm-up. You're the worst kind of I honestly thought, I'm not even kidding. I was like, this is worth it. If I've got like $70 somewhere, I will take a dumbbell or something like that, or both of them, a barbell, something, a plate, and just drop it on that Beats pill. Should know better. It's justified. I'll be like Bill Murray when he's wearing that King's like, we got dogs barking. That King's like attire when he's walking through whatever that award show was. That'll be me, except I'll have people cheering for me because I smashed this dude's Beats pill speaker because he tried to decide what all of us were going to listen to on a Tuesday night. Anyway. So we got the end of the year coming up. Student series is coming on pretty soon. And wheels on the bus, they're falling off a little bit. I can't stand the whole, like, this ship's going down, or like, all the teachers are sticking to their ship, just like any good captain would, even if it is the Titanic. All right, I get it. Like, let's get over it. Let's relax here. But I am excited. We have an end of the year carnival. The student series is going to be recorded at some point. I believe it's going to be 91. The very next episode will be the first of, hopefully, many. And the end of the year carnival is usually pretty good. Attendance takes a little bit of a jump for that before it completely jettisons itself toward the ground. And, I think it should be a good time with plenty of sports and I'm sure movies and games and bumper cars with the driver's ed car, maybe? We'll see. It's that kind of a year. So if you are a teacher, Classroom Brew is going to continue on throughout the summer. With most of it being the student series, but also the occasional update, I'm sure. It just kind of depends on where things go. But if you haven't already, make sure you check out Brian at the Lazy Teacher Podcast. He usually takes a break. He calls I think he should call his seasons school years, because he takes a break during the summer, which I think is great. It's not lazy at all, Brian. No, I'm kidding. I actually think that's a very wise thing to do at podcasts in seasons. I've been doing them weekly, and at this point, I'm like, all right, let's just keep it going. But check out Brian before he takes his break for the end of the year. He did a great episode on Your Path. He's had a number of fantastic episodes, and it's kind of weird whenever he doesn't. He posts weekly, but one time he missed one he had a bunch of stuff going on, but I was way off my game. So I recommend that one for you guys. And of course, check out Robbie's podcast, Growing Minds, Empowered Teachers, with Vanessa's podcast, all of whom have been on Classroom Brew many times. So check them out. Give that support to Teacher Pods. Finish this off. Again, exclusive content. Ooh. Exclusive content is on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/classroombrew. Anything you would like, if you become a patron, just request it. I've got plenty of ideas, but you might have better ones. Probably have better ones. Probably more creative than I am. And we'll go from there. Rate and review, all that good stuff. Continue to reach out if you have additional questions for the student series. Make sure you get those into social media. And until next week, Thank you for watching and listening, of course. But until next week, class dismissed.